So yes, who was the principal. So he used to organize these courses. And I do remember at one time we even had some scout masters from Southern Rhodesia. And I think I was fortunate myself that in my patrol, Mr. Joshua Nkomo was one of my mates in my patrol at the Woodbird. He took the same course as you have seen in my certificate. So that was the first time to come into contact with Mr. Joshua Nkomo. He was very slim then, of course. He didn't put on the weight as he has now. So from that time, we had Mr. Gabera as well on the same course. Because scouting was considered a very important part of our education. And I don't regret it, because you will find that most of the people who took such courses, they are good leaders, people who took scouting.
Well, now, when you left down your scouting, left Chalambana, did you continue teaching it, starting it at Mutanda then later? Did you continue at all? Or?
When we graduated, we came back. It is interesting that we came back almost the same route as we went to Chalambana. With my friends, Mr. Mujatranga, all my friends who went with me. We found Mr. Simon Chivanza again. This was in 1942.
Now this is when you finished?
We finished,
I see.
So we came back on the same lorry, Mr. Robinson's lorry, up to Sorezi. We found Mr. Simon Chivanza. He gave us enough food. And this time we arranged for carriers to carry our books, because we had boxes of books. So he arranged for carriers. He gave us one carrier each to carry our books. We walked again back to Kasemba. So we were appointed as teachers in the mission schools. We were posted to go to various schools. My first appointment was at Kandamo village. Now that village was right on the what is the national park now. So that you can see that that was the first school in that area. Oh, it was interesting. We were just told you are going to open up a school there. So I went there. I had a few carriers to take my exercise books and a few boxes of chalk and a small plastic cardboard for a blackboard. And there I was told to go and open up a school. There was nothing there. When I arrived, there was one local preacher there, Mr. Rondoni, who was very good. I think he's now, I believe now he's headman Moyo in the Kasonso. He was a relative in the Kasonso area. He was a relative of Chief Kasonso. So I was lucky that he had a lot of influence in the area. We organized the people to build a temporary school using pond mud and the teacher's house. Then we started to recruit the children. It was not easy in those days for children to come to school. And incidentally, you notice that this was during the war. The war was still on. So that the children, when we said they come to school, many parents thought they were recruiting these children to go to join the army so that they could go and fight in the war. So you see, there was this problem. So it took us many days and many months to explain that we wanted the children to come and learn to read and write, not to go and join the army.
So unlike today, you really sort of had to convince the parents, get their confidence, and the children just didn't voluntarily.
No, there was no. We had actually go into the villages to look for the children, and the parents did all they could to hide their children.
Even from you?
Yes, even from me.
They thought you were acting on behalf of the
army. Yes, all they thought was they wanted the children to train them and to send them to go and fight in the army. Well, it took us some time to convince them that we wanted to teach them how to read and write. And so we went around. What we did was to try to make the school very attractive. In those days we had a lot of songs to enjoy, so the small groups of children who were there with whom I started, we started to teach them songs, school songs, hymns, and So many of them realized, oh, after all, they just want us to go and enjoy at school. So many of them came, volunteered now, they all came, and I used to release them. Sometimes we used to go out for scouting. I introduced scouting. We used to go out fishing on the river. Also they enjoyed it. They said, oh no, it's all, we have just come to the
So you started scouting right there?
Yes, I started scouting right there. And fortunately I was only there for a year. Because there was a higher teachers course introduced at Charimbana for all those who had either qualified as T4 teachers or those who had done Form 2. There were very few people who did Form 2 at that time. There were very few. So the education officer in Solwezi wanted some teachers from the district to go and join me on this course. So I was fortunate, I was selected to go and join this course after I had taught for a year only, after having been the teacher in charge, the class teacher in that school at Kandamo. So,
had you married yet? Or
no,
I
was still single.
Still single?
I was still single. And you will notice that at that school which I started at Kandamo, some of my pupils who are today are quite in high posts. Mr. Philemon Liombe, who is the chairman of the Police and the Prison Service Commission, was one of my first pupils at Kandamo.
At Kandamo?
Kandamo, yes, in 1942. And Mr. John Majamo, who is an education officer now I think in the Zambezi. Batten Kanza, he is a teacher. Who else was there? I think those are Mr. Nachika Mkwamba is a senior man at Mukinge Hospital, and many others.
So you can be very proud of your students.
Those were my first students.
I see.
At Kandamo.
Now, who replaced you as a teacher there before they released you? Did they have someone else come?
Yes, Mr. Wadika Funkache, late Wadika Funkache.
I see.
He took over from me, so I left everything in his hands. And I went to Charimbana to a 2-year course again. This time HTC. The pattern was still the same. I'm happy to say the pattern of education was both practical and theoretical. This time I took advanced training as a supervisor as well. As HTC, those who were being groomed for posts, you could become an HTC, a gene supervisor as well, or a manager of schools. And to teach, we were also groomed to teach in upper primary schools, to teach standard 5 and 6. Those were very much short of teachers. So that it was a really advanced, very advanced course.
Now who ran that course? Was that again Maxwell Robertson?
Maxwell Robertson, yes.
Still in charge?
He's still in charge, yes. And I took from 1942, 43, 44, 1945, I graduated as a qualified HTC teacher. So I was qualified to teach standard 5 and 6. Now, when I came back, this time we had buses. I managed to ride on a bus. So when I came back, Peter Letchford and John Wright had arrived from Britain to come to help our mission, the South African General Mission, with education on the education side, apart from his foreman. So it was decided that we open up an upper primary school at Mutanda Mission. And so there was Mr. Peter Letchford, there was John Wright, and myself. Then we wanted another teacher, Carpenter Kafukache, although he was just a T4, but he was a very brilliant teacher. So we selected him to come and teach with us at Mutanda. We had Mr. Tito Kiwaria also, who had also qualified, who took the same course with me as an HTC.
Oh, at the same time?
At the same time,
I see.
So that there were 2 of us who were qualified, plus there were 4 of us, including Peter Letchford and John Wright. So we opened up, we started standard 5, and then there were some students. Don't forget that time, in this province, we were the only one upper primary school, and that was Chitoko. all our boys had either, who wanted to go for further education, had either to go to Chitokoroki Mission in Zambezi district, or find places elsewhere, either on the Copper Belt or Munari or Charimbana. And Munari and Charimbana was not easy because you had to be selected to go there. So you could see some of our boys from here went to Chitokoroki. And at that time, Chitokoroki used to run a teacher's course as well, T4 teacher's course. Some of our boys went there and they qualified as teachers. I remember Mr. Watika from Kache. After he left Charimbana, he changed because he was married. He wanted to take his wife with him. So he came back because they allowed to go to Chitokoroki with his wife. Because they are T4 teachers, limited teachers, were allowed to take their wives with them. So those who were older, I remember even Mr. Peter Kajova, who is now our chief, Mumena in the Soweto district, because he was married, so he took his wife, he went to Chitokoroki, they were allowed to take their wives. So that was the only other place. So when we opened the Mutanda, I think that helped us very much, because do remember that we used to get boys from Wampa, from Kafuafuta, from Munerunga, and the Kasempa and Soweto. Because we had connections with the Wampa, we had the same mission, the South African General Mission. So they used to send their boys. They used to walk, of course, from Wampa to Mutanda. And the boys from, and we have this Kafuafuta mission. The missionaries there, we have the same, we have connections with them, because they are these, what is their mission now? This Kafuafuta, they are Baptist mission. Baptist, so they are more or less the same as our mission here. So there was a lot of connection. So they arranged that their boys come to Mutanda for education. So we received quite a good number of boys from Kafuafuta.
And you received quite a few from Munilunga?
Munilunga, yes, there was no upper primary school. Many of them, we have Mr. Manjomba here, who is Solomon Manjomba, who is the education officer. He was one of our boys, one of our first boys. We have Enoch Sameta, I think he is now retired. He was one of my inspectors of schools. We later out joined, he was one of my inspectors. He was one of our boys. We had Rhodes Sambondi, I believe now he's an assistant secretary. He came from Munirunga. Many other boys came from Munirunga. We had one officer here who was the district secretary, Mr. Kawemba. He was one of those who came from Munirunga. He came to Mutanda because it was near for them to come to Mutanda and to go to Chitokoroki. In any case, Chitokoroki was always full. So we had to split some boys. So we had only two upper primary schools.
Yeah. Well, now, if Mutanda was a very mixed school from children who had just come from very closed societies like in Kasempa or Munilunga, did you have any problems? You as teachers have to be vigilant for problems to knock down any ideas of tribalism? Was there any problem with this at all?
We had no problem whatsoever. You know, in those days, boys went to school because they wanted to learn. So they had no time for other things, no other ideas. They had no time for other ideas.
Yeah.
All the boys from Kasempa, Mr. Yamba was one of them. They used to walk from here, from Kasempa to Sorezi. They all just met there as boys, as school boys. And when they went there, we divided them into dormitories. We just mixed them up. Some were captains, compound captains, where the system were the compounds. And they had to look after themselves. We gave them enough food. They had to cook for themselves. They had to clean up their own dormitories. And they had the production unit. In those days, we had even the agriculture instructors on the staff in all upper primary schools. We had also carpentry instructors. So that they divided their time. Some went for carpentry, woodwork, brickwork, and gardening, agriculture. So that we kept boys pretty busy. And they were all very happy. And as a result, All the boys, most of the boys who came to Butanda are holding important posts. Some are permanent secretaries, others are ministers, the others are members of the Central Committee, many of them.
To make you very proud.
Oh, I'm very proud. Each time we have these big meetings at the parties, when I go there, you find everybody at the MCC comes, introducing me to his friends. This was my teacher. Mr. Ngalande was my teacher. So I feel very proud. And I feel very happy that really it was, my life has been worthwhile.
Yes. What did you actually teach, Mr. Ngalande? What grades and what subjects, and how much better was it from the days when you were struggling, for example, by then?
When we started teaching in the upper primary schools, again, because of the shortage of teachers, you had to take one class in all subjects. If you were given standard 3, you had to teach standard 3 all subjects. If you had standard 4, you had to teach standard 4 subjects. Standard 5, you had to teach all subjects because we were of shortage of teachers. So that I personally looked after standard 6. I taught standard 6. And I think I was lucky. Our boys did very well. From Mutanda, we produced quite a good number who were selected to go to Munari. And it was not easy then to have boys selected to go to Munari, because that was the only secondary school in the country. So that when we started in full swing, there were some who were struggling, who had either failed standard 6 somewhere, and so on. So we took all those in. So we formed up classes, and we had to polish them, and then they all went through. I remember one of the boys, the students who qualified later on, was the Reverend Kosam Kasonso. He was very intelligent.
Well, now by this time, had you then married? Were you still single?
Yeah, I was still single. I taught for 2 years before I got married.
I see.
I taught at Mutanda for 2 years. I got married in 1947. Then.
Now, who did you marry?
I married. My wife was Neti Pupe, the daughter of one of our local evangelists, Mr. John Pupe, who was just like my father, who had worked with the missions for a long time. He had been with the missionaries, even at Sonwezi and at Chisarara in the Sorezi district before the mission moved here.
Had she had a chance to go to school?
Yes, she had a chance to go to school. She went to Mindoro.
I see.
Yes.
So now, sorry, I interrupted you on your. Was there anything else you wanted to say about your teaching days?
Yes.
At
Mutanda, yes.
Mutanda, yes.
What we did was, after we organized this, one of the students I taught, who graduated from Mutanda and went for further education, was Mr. Reverend Kosam Kasonso. And of course, many others followed after that.
Yes.
Mr. Kajira, Mr. Changara, and many others. So we had again a crash program. We wanted as many boys to pass through, to graduate, to go for secondary, so that some could come back as teachers. And many of them qualified, went to qualify, they went to Charingana and qualified as teachers. Some of them came to take over from us. So that was a very good thing. And while at Mutanda, we also organized very good scout troops. Very good scout troops.
So you kept up your scout?
Yes. So the boys enjoyed it very much. It kept the boys alive, and they liked it. And because we knew that scouting taught a lot of self-reliance, and it imprinted the sense of leadership into the boys. Because when you make someone a boy patrol leader or a troop leader, he is a leader, and all the others follow him. And the assistant patrol leader, so he turns around to give commands to others. So that apart from the enjoyment, I think it gave the boys a lot of confidence and a sense of leadership. So we kept it up. And I think it was one time we had a jamboree for East and Central Africa in Ndola. It was in 1940, it was 46. And we had some scouts from, at that time, Congo, which is now Zaire. We had some scouts from Nyasaland, Malawi now. We had some scouts from Southern Rhodesia. They all came, we met at Ndola. And there was a stiff competition in everything. We enjoyed it. We were there for about 2 weeks. I do remember one thing the boys liked very much. We used to have a big parade, and Mr. David Barker used to take them in drill, physical training, stripped up to the waist. And Mr. David Barker, who had just come from the army, was an educationist. He was on the staff at Charimbani. And Mr. Davison, we nicknamed him Kiwale, because he was very, very strict with discipline. He was on the staff at Charimbani. So they all came to help organize the jamboree. Yeah. It was a very successful one, because he started each morning with a physical training. After that, the boys then all went, cleaned themselves, cleaned their camp, and then they put on clean uniform, and there was an inspection for cleanliness. And I liked that part very much, because it gave the boys a sense of cleanliness. Because many of those boys came from boarding schools. Yeah. So that was a continuation. It helped them when they went back, they kept that up in their boarding schools. So during that, after the jamboree, there were marks given for cleanliness, there were marks given for a good turnout generally. I think there were 3 things. So we were very happy. We surprised everybody that Mutanda got the pennant, the first points for cleanliness for our camp. The Mutanda boys were commended for very clean turnout. So I was lucky, I was leading them. I led them to the camp. So everybody came to look at our camp, our setting. Because when we arrived there, we were just given a site, saying, you plan it as you like. Make it attractive, make it beautiful, arrange everything. And they left you like that. So having had some experience, of course, I think my wood badge course helped me very much. So I organized my boys, and our campsite was very, very clean. Each time, anybody could come, so it was a model. So that every day we had the pennant flying for the best turnout camp. True. So we, at the end, Mutanda was given a flag for cleanliness. So we were very happy. The boys were singing and they were waving up their flag. So that Mutanda was on the map, even in scouting. And of course, academically, many of the boys did very well. And you will notice that Standard 6 examination was a very, very important examination, because it decided the lives of the future life of the people, of the boys. And we used to have it alternatively. Sometimes the exams were taken at Chitokoloki. The boys, all our boys had to go to Chitokoloki to write that. An invigilator from either Sorwezi or Osaka, an education officer. And sometimes they came to Mutanda as a center, all the Chitokoloki boys used to come. And we also took a very active part in sports. We used to have inter-school sports. We used to go to Chitokoloki or to Zambezi, or we used to come to Sorwezi. And sometimes we used to go to the Copperbelt to compete with the Copperbelt schools. And these were just the primary schools, upper primary schools.
But I'm told at Mutanda there was Mr. Litchford was very keen to send some people overseas, but there were some problems or complications. Do you recall anything about this at all?
Yes. Yes, there were complications. Peter Litchford and John Wright came out specifically as educationists to help the missions. But I think the old missionaries were still stuck to the idea of just literacy, giving the local people just enough literacy to be able to enable them to learn to read the scriptures. So they didn't aim at sending people out for further education. So as a result, you will find that we had no secondary school in this area. All our boys had to go out to look for secondary school elsewhere. Now, later on, I discussed this point. I think I will come to that later on.
All right, fine.
Yes. So this was a complication. Peter Ledgeford was very keen in trying to select some boys, send them to Munari or elsewhere where there was secondary education, and then perhaps groom up some of them to go to Britain overseas, but it was not possible.
Mm-hmm. It was very difficult.
Very difficult.
Well, now, what happened then? Were you there when Reverend Litchford left, and did you stay on at the...
No, I stayed on 1947 after I got married. Again, I think I was very lucky myself. There was a new course again started at Charimbana. This time it was called a T2 course. Now the T2 course was designed to train teachers to teach in upper primary schools and even in the junior secondary schools. So this was a course designed for people who had either completed HTC course, which was equivalent to Form 2, and or people who had completed Form 4, which was the highest in those days, so that this was intended for teachers to go and teach it in junior secondary schools. Again, I was fortunate. I was selected to go for that course. This time I took my wife with me in 1947. This was a 3-year course now. And this was a very, very tough course because we were being groomed to teach in the junior secondary schools. I remember on that course, there were not many of us on that course. There were about 9 of us. And I remember one of the students on our course, on that course, was Chief Mapanza, who was my classmate. Chief Mapanza, he's a qualified teacher. He's now a member of the Central Committee now, I believe. Or he's on the Setting Commission. So there were 9 of us on that course. And it was a very stiff course. It was a real academic course. And Mr. Ngalande, you know him. Yes. He's now the regional inspector here in Northwestern. Yes. He was my classmate on that course.
Yeah. Yes. Well, then, what was your progression then from then on?
Now, from there, when I came back, I was headmaster. Peter Ledgeford was on leave. I found John Wright. And the John Wright was concentrating more now. He was missionary in charge because the missionary in charge was Eti Mutanda now had left. So that he was getting away from education. So I took charge of the school. So that I was the headmaster of Mutanda School. And I came back in 1950. So I continued to run the school. And we did very well. Many of our boys passed through into secondary schools. Ledgeford was away. I stayed at Mutanda now for 2 more years. In 1950, no, 4 more years. No, for 2 years. In 1952, I applied to transfer into a government school. I was lucky again because many people knew me. Perhaps they thought I was a good teacher. I was offered a post in Kasama, in Kabwe, the Broken Hill then, and Livingstone, and at Charimbana. They wanted me to be a lecturer at Charimbana. And so I had to choose where to go. Yes. So I told Mr. Wright, he was very, very unhappy. Mr. Wright, Mr. and Mrs. Wright were very unhappy. He wanted to know why I wanted to change. He said, well, look, I think I need a change. I've been here too long. That was my only reason. I said, look, I've been brought up here in this mission. I've been educated here. I've taught here for 10 years now. So I think I need a change. Otherwise, I will be locally minded. Well, reluctantly, Mr. Wright released me. And there was an education officer at Surveys, I forget his name. It was Mr. Roberts. So he sent instructions. He said I should move to Livingstone as quick as possible. Mr. Davison was they used to call him provincial education officer. So I transferred to Livingstone. That was after 10 years, it's working for the mission for 10 years. So I transferred to Livingstone. And Livingstone I was given to teach standard 6 in one of the big primary schools at Shungu Government School. Shungu Government School, yes. I was very lucky. Perhaps I worked hard in both inside and outside school activities, and the boys did very well. Some of the boys that came from there to go to Munari, I do remember a few, like the former mayor of Ndola, Shamoya, he was even a high commissioner in London, Zambia high commissioner, and many others.
Were you actually paid better by government than when you were working?
There wasn't very much difference, but the salary was higher, yes. Salary was higher. Well, salaries in those days, perhaps I might, concerning salaries, I might go back a little bit.
Yes.
In those days, I said I was a qualified teacher, started 6 with 2 years training. I was getting 27 shillings and 6 pence.
When you started teaching?
Yes, when I started teaching.
Wow.
That was the equivalent of 4 kwacha, 75 in way. 4 kwacha, 75, no, 27.
Yes,
2 kwacha.
It was jolly small anyway.
2 kwacha, yes.
Yes, 2 kwacha
75.
Yeah, 2 kwacha 75.
Yes. I think we didn't have any government teachers, but we had teachers who were working in the Native Authority schools. We had one school here, Kasempa Native Authority. I think our friends were getting 35 shillings.
Oh.
I think they were given 5 shillings as food allowance and 30 shillings their salary.
Well, now would that 27 shillings buy quite a bit, though?
Oh yes, in those days it was quite sufficient. You could buy quite a lot out with it. Because in those days you could even buy a bicycle, because the bicycle was £3.
£3?
You could buy a bicycle, a new bicycle. And you could buy a shirt for 1 6.
Yes.
Which is the 15 ingwe, the equivalent of 15 ingwe, a good shirt. And a good pair of trousers, 3 shillings, 13 ingwe, or 4 shillings, 14 ingwe. So for that time it was quite good,
yes.
Quite sufficient.
Quite sufficient.
Yes. And of course things changed because we went by. So that, well, I taught in Livingstone for 3 years up to 1955. Then I was promoted to as a headmaster. I was transferred to Mazabuka Government School. That school used to go up to standard 4 only, so I was promoted to go and open up an upper primary school. Because in those days we had the elementary up to standard 2, and the middle school up to standard 4, 3 and 4, then upper primary 5 and 6. So I had a job to organize Mazabuka Government School into a full-fledged upper primary school. I think I was lucky again. I worked very hard with the cooperation of the people. The school expanded. When I left in 1960, I think we had the 5 streams from grade 1 up to grade 7. We used the old GD school buildings. We took over those and expanded and renovated them, so we had quite a big school.
This was a big boarding school?
No, it was a day school.
Day school?
We had all day school. So it was with an enrollment of over 1,000 people. Yes, so it was a grade 1 school. Then I was promoted as manager of schools. I stayed in Mozambique for a long time. Then I was lucky in 1960, I was selected to go to take a course overseas.
In 1960?
1960, yes. So I was offered a course at Murray House in Edinburgh, Scotland. I think that was a good experience.
That had been your first time overseas?
Overseas, yes. And we had a few friends, Mr. Mpuku, Yona Mpuku, who was my workmate at Sorority once upon a time.
Yeah.
And we were classmates in Edinburgh at Murray House.
How long were you there?
We were there for a year. I think there were 5 or 6 of us from Northern Rhodesia then. Yeah. We were just, that time we left the things, there was a lot of struggle for independence.
Yeah.
The Northern Rhodesia then was in the news all the time. And when we went there, we were asked a lot of questions. Well, we didn't like to answer because we were still under federation. So we didn't like to be sent back.
Yes.
But privately we used to tell our friends all about what we thought about the federation, the evils of federation. And we were very lucky. We found a lot of friends, both in London and in Edinburgh, among the missionaries who had been here. And Miss Foreman had heard that I was going to Edinburgh, so he had organized a lot of friends, of her friends, to welcome me. So it was I was really happy. Unfortunately, I missed her. She had just returned to Ghana after her leave, but she had left word with her friends. So they used to come to invite me for tea, and they told me she was staying just next to the house, the lodgings where I was. So those people who were friends from Miss Foreman used to come for me. I used to go to them. They used to come to our digs where we were staying. Yes, we were lucky. The hostels were, Murray House had no college hostels that time, but they had arranged with some hostels belonging to the university, but those were full up. So those of us who couldn't get into the hostels were distributed to stay with families in digs. I used to live in Mochmont Crescent with Mrs. Mills, the elderly lady. She had some daughters and the granddaughters. So they used to look after us.
That's very nice.
It was our first experience overseas and my first experience of cold, snow and the ice. I was very lucky with my friend Mr. Mpuku. He had also a lot of friends among the former missionaries who worked in the Northern Province.
Oh, I see.
So we had the Reverend Bennett, we had the Reverend Mackenzie, we had the Reverend Fraser. Unfortunately, the time we arrived there in September in Edinburgh, he was in the Royal Infirmary in the hospital. And after a few days he died. We were very sorry to miss him. We knew him while he was at the Wansha, Reverend Fraser. And we had him, Reverend Mackenzie was very good. He used to take us out at the hills, among the hills in the locks, Scots locks. And it was beautiful scenery.
Yeah.
We went to Peebles, we went to the Rock, that was a very good experience for me.
Yes.
And the people in Scotland were very hospitable. Each time we had a lot of invitations at weekends to stay with them, to take us out. And that was a very good experience.
Well, now, when you came back, it was about the end of 61?
61, yes.
And now, up to the time through independence, and what were you doing then? Were you still in education?
When I came back, I was before I went, I was manager of schools at Malaysia. So when I came back, I came to the same post.
Oh, I see.
Yes, as manager of schools. Because those days, that was the highest rank in Africa to get.
I see.
But towards independence, there was a move to promote some managers to be education officers. I remember the present minister for Western Province, Mr. Mufai Mumbuna, was one of them, just newly appointed an assistant education officer. So he was, instead of us managers sending our correspondence to Livingstone, then we had an assistant education officer. It was Mr. Mumbuna was one of the first. But then in Mons, in Choma, we had Mr. Jose Monga. He was also one of the first assistant education officers, African assistant education officers, to be appointed. And I was a manager of schools with several other, those who were headmasters of big schools were promoted to be managers of schools. And the manager of schools during that time was a very heavy responsibility, because you had to pay all the teachers in your area, in the whole district. You had to order and deliver all the equipment. And during that time, schools were very well supplied with equipment, so you had to order all those. Of course, we had plenty of transport with which to deliver all these things. Unlike today, when the managers and everybody has a problem over transport.
Yes.
Then, in 1970, in 63, just before independence, I was selected to attend an advanced administrative course at the National Institute of Public Administration in Lusaka at LIPA. I was one of the few selected to prepare for independence, to groom us to take over some of the posts which were being held by expatriate officers. So I was there for 6 months, from January to June to July in 64. The first elections, that was part of our course we had to conduct to help in organizing the first independence elections. I was we worked in Lusaka, we divided. Those of us who were at LIPA, that was our practical work. We had to go and actually organize, take part in the elections, to run as the polling assistants and so on. So that was a good experience. Many of I do remember one of the classmates on that course was Mr. Gawesha. Langsori Gawesha was our permanent secretary in Sorezi now.
I see.
He was my classmate. Yes, on that course. I think that was the second course, because the first was given to the ministers who became ministers first, and the permanent secretaries, and the ours was the second course. So it was also a very stiff course and a crash course. It was a crash program to groom people to take over these posts. So when we graduated in June, well, we were in the pool now. We had to be sent everywhere. Edward Mnyanga from education, there were two of us, with Edward Mnyanga and myself. So there was a tug of war. The government said, now these are in pool, we are going to distribute them to fit them in ministries as we like. But then the Ministry of Education argued. He said, no, but I thought you were only training them to make them better officers for us. You didn't tell us that they were going to go away from us. So no, we are taking them. Edward and Aaron are going away. So I think the minister, the permanent secretary, struggled, and the chief inspector of schools said, no, you see, we wanted these people back because we are going to appoint them as the first African Zambian inspectors of schools. So it was just on that condition that we were released back. into education.
Oh,
Otherwise, that was going to be the end for me with education. Yes, we were sent back to education on condition that we were going to take the post of Zambian inspectors of schools. That's how I came back.
I see. Well, now, just in very summary, although it's not as historical now,